Good morning, good evening, everyone. So we have an express webinar today. It's a 15-minute session, which is going to be taken by Mostafa Hanafi, who is the program manager at Konabos. So this is the second session that Mostafa is taking for us. Thank you so much, Mostafa, for taking the time. We rarely actually get project management related sessions, so it's really nice to have sessions that cater to that audience as well. So thank you for taking the time. Please take it away.
Of course. Thank you so much, Annie. Thank you for the opportunity and for having me again to talk about not a technical topic. So yeah, thank you guys for joining. Mostafa Hanafi, Program Manager at Konabos, and I've been in the consulting field for about 10 years now. As Annie said, it's a quick session. I don't want to bore you with too much PM stuff, but I thought project estimation would be a good topic to talk about here today. Just a quick disclaimer, I don't have any magic formula for project estimation. This is actually in my opinion, one of the toughest jobs or tasks for a project manager and the project team altogether. We are struggling internally with this, but I wanted to share some of the insights that helped me to get at least a good percentage of project estimation done in the right way. So let's jump right into it. All right, so I usually like to start with why, right? So why is accurate estimation important for a Sitecore project? So if you ask any team member, why do we need estimates? You will get answers like, we need to know when the project ends, and we need to know the budget, and we need to know if more resources are needed to hit our deadlines, which are all right answers. And now if you dig deeper into this by asking a few more whys, you will see that you are getting more information. So you want to know the project deadline because there are other dependencies with other projects and other teams. And if you keep digging deeper, you will really get to what it comes down, which is being fair. In my opinion, this is the core reason why we need accurate estimation. So what happens is that in a typical Sitecore project, you have so many stakeholders and so many different departments in the company putting their eyes on your project. So you have the marketing department, the content if it's a separate department, you have digital, you have the IT, and all of these people are affected by your work. As a developer or a business analyst or a QA engineer, when a PM asks for an estimate, it's really about fairness to the whole team that you give an accurate answer. It doesn't just affect that user story that you're working on, or the test case that you're working on, or that project launch. For Sitecore, it's a bit more complicated because there are so many moving parts that go with it. So even a simple Sitecore upgrade project can have an impact on a marketing plan for this quarter, and it can affect also the end users. Let's say if you're upgrading on an instance that has a Sitecore commerce and you're adding more features, all of this at a high level affects multiple people, and it's about being fair to your fellow developers sitting right next to you when you're giving an accurate estimate, so that it doesn't break the budget for the other developer to work, or your PM, or as I said, for the whole team. So in my opinion, fairness is an important thing that we should always keep in mind when we're trying to give an estimate or ask for an estimate. One of the values that we have at Konabos, and I believe you can see it in my watermark, is to be fair. And at Konabos, we don't take this one lightly. We take pride of actually encouraging every team member to be fair. And this is one way that we have seen a practical implementation of being fair is to be able to give an accurate estimation. So my next slide, and it's a bit wordy, and this is where I really want to spend most of the time here. So how to achieve accurate estimation for a Sitecore project, which again is very challenging. There are so many different ways to do this, and as I said, I don't have a magic formula to get you to the right thing. But there are a few things that I've learned through the years. And first of all, actually, is to understand that an estimate is really just an estimate. So when people ask for estimations, some developers and some team members, they think that whatever they say should be the correct thing. And in most of the cases, it's not. I would say 70 to 80% of the time, it's not, especially at the beginning of a project where there are so many uncertainties. So the first thing we need to understand is an estimate can be as accurate as it gets, but it will never be the actual effort that people are spending on a project. So there are a few ways to get close to that accuracy that project managers usually need. And one of the main things is to make sure that you have the right people in the room, or bring the right people to whatever Zoom meeting or virtual platform you're using. The idea here is that an estimate is not complete if it just has one part of the story. So if we're talking about a project that, as I said, it includes, and usually this is what happens with Sitecore projects, you will see that you will need a design aspect, a development aspect, a content aspect, a marketing aspect, and all of these need to be together working on estimation. If it's a small development task, this needs to be linked to a proper goal, and this goal would need to have all of the people are involved in that to actually make it happen. So if you just go in and talk to a developer and a solution architect estimating a full project, yes, you will get good just think of everything that needs to go in the project before you actually start development. So some people call this a sprint zero. I actually, for me, sprint zero is that you already started a sprint. So you're still not really sure until you have a proper discovery, where the whole idea of the discovery is to just ask questions and get answers. And as a project manager or an owner for the project, is that you put this in a way that makes sense for you to be able to estimate the project. So discovery is really, really important in my opinion, and it's really an integral part of having proper estimations. My third point here is to get estimates reviewed. So again, estimates cannot be set in stone. They will change. The idea is that we understand and we be flexible for what to do when they actually change. So we start a project with a set of estimates to get us to, let's say, 6 or 7 months. Now, this is a long period for a typical Sitecore projects, because you will see that things will start to change during these 6 months. And it's typically a good thing or a good practice to have some checkpoints. So let's say after every 3 or 4 sprints, let's bring the team back, talk about our estimates. Are we actually hitting the right estimates that we had put together as a PM? Usually um, a quick report of estimates versus actuals to get you the delta would help in these situations. So after a few sprints, you go in and say, guys, looks like our delta is really large, right? So what is happening here? Did we misestimate something? Do we have to go back and ask for more clarification from business? Do business understand what we're trying to do? And then this way, you will be able to refine and keep this estimation task ongoing, and instead of just doing it at the beginning of the project and then a few months later you realize that we haven't been actually giving proper estimates for our project. And the final point here is communication. So estimates that are sitting on project managers desktop or a product owner or anyone who is sponsoring a project doesn't really help anyone if it's just sitting there and not being communicated clearly to everyone. And this really goes into so many different levels. It could be even an estimation of the time that is expected from a developer, let's say. So as PMs, we typically, at the beginning of a project, we go in and do some resource allocation. So we say we need those 5 developers and we need 100% of 3 of them, 50% of 2 of them. And what usually gets missed is that as a PM, you do all of this prep work and estimation, but it's not really clearly communicated to people, to the developers, to project sponsors, to business stakeholders, so that a few months later you realize and you start to get comments that, oh, we didn't actually know that it would take that long, or we didn't know that I need to be working on this full time. And an EPM on the call here, I know Khaled is, could attest to that, because the communication is as good as actually working on an estimate. So clearly communicating, making sure that people understand what is the process for estimation, why do we need the estimates, how to actually get me accurate estimates is something that is very important, and over communicating this to all the stakeholders is extremely important, so that you know that everyone is on the same page. You're not getting any assumptions that people are making about estimates, and you give also a chance this way for people to ask questions. So one thing that communication channel opens for, especially for estimation, is that you give a chance for people to clarify. So if I go in and talk to the team about the estimation task, and I give them the proper chance to go back, take their time, give me accurate estimates, then this way I am doing effective communication. Sometimes what happens is that people or project team members, especially developers, are asked to give estimates on something right away. And it could be small, medium, large, like a t-shirt sizing kind of estimate, or like an actual number of hours. And all of this, if you don't have proper communication mechanism in place and you just ask people to give you these on the spot, then this is not proper communication. Sometimes, or most of the time, actually, development teams, they need time to be able to ask the question, clarify, and give accurate estimates. Because if you just put them on the spot, most likely you will get an inaccurate answer if they don't really think about their answers, and it will not be beneficial for the project at the end of the day. So this is really what I wanted to share. I hope you got something out of it. I don't want to bore you with more PM stuff, but this is what I really learned, especially with Sitecore projects and the importance of estimation there. Thank you, everyone. Any comments or questions?
If anyone wants to share something, feel free to unmute yourself. Right, I think we're good. Hey, Khaled.
Yeah, hello. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Mustafa, for the presentation. It's really insightful, and I know how estimation sometimes is a painful exercise. My question there, I know that you touched on the way of doing estimations, whether it's hour-based estimations or versus um, relative estimations using the cards and things of that sort. But sometimes, like when you go to projects, you'll face like people working at different pace, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Or sometimes like a different seniority level.
Yes.
And my question is, how do you deal with that situation when you face like a card or story that is estimated by developer A at, for example, 4 hours versus 8 hours for developer B? So how do you deal?
Yeah.
What are the best strategies there?
Yeah, so one thing we had tried at a previous company before is we were using story points, and we were working remotely with people. But we on backlog groomings or sprint planning, whenever you do your estimates or maybe a separate ceremony, what we typically did is that we presented a user story, and on the call we would have a solution architect and maybe 2 or 3 developers. And then we ask people to take a minute to read it, ask any questions, and when they are ready, on the chat of the meeting, everyone at the same time would put their the story points. So for that story, you would get 3, 5, 4, 6, 7 at the same time. So people are not really impacted by other developers' estimate. And then for the 3, 4, 5, it's very close. Maybe you can take an average, but if you start to see like a 9, you just ask that person, why do you think this one is a 9? And maybe they give something that they understand more than the other developers, or for them, they say, maybe I don't have experience with that piece, so it would take me more time, or they just need clarification on the requirement. So you refine this, quickly answer the clarification question if there is, or if that person doesn't have experience with this piece and you see that someone else said 3, and they say, yeah, I said 3 because I actually know how to do this. I've done it a few times before. Then you might be able to assign this task to this person who can get it done faster and have experience with it. So this way we have learned that, again, when you have the right people in the room doing the estimates and you give them a chance to challenge each other a little bit and everyone gives their opinion, then you can get an accurate result this way.
Yep. Thank you, Mustafa. And how often do you review your estimate?
I usually try to do it every like 3 or 4 sprints. Again, depends on the size of the project. If it's a huge project that would go for a year, then it may be every 4 sprints, so a couple of months. If you have a small project, then it's really a judgment call. But typically, at least twice or 3 times during the life cycle of a project would make sense, just so that you have a sense of if we're doing the right thing or not. In our world, in the consulting space, it helps because we are servicing clients, and usually we send invoices to clients and we update them on the budget that we're spending. So it might get actually even more frequent than that. You would need to do it monthly so that when you estimate a project would cost 100K every month, but you're sending out a bill for more than that, then you actually need to go back to the team and see what's happening with the estimate. So this is also another way the budget reporting helps you, or maybe pokes a PM to go back to project estimation.
Thank you.
Great. We have another question on the chat from Sandeep. He asks if you have any suggestion on upgrade project estimates, as a lot of uncertainties are involved. Should we time box the upgrade projects and keep adding up time during the course of the upgrade as a lot of challenges get uncovered? So what would the best strategy be here?
Yes, upgrades are very tricky. I agree. Even if you're doing a small upgrade, recently we had one of our SAs working on a 9.1 to 9.3. So very straightforward is what we got from the client. There isn't much to do, and then we started to get into it. We saw that they have so many third-party modules that would be incompatible if we move to 9.3. And we have to redo some work or look for other modules. And we didn't know that at the beginning. So one way is, again, the discovery. So for upgrade projects, I would recommend more time on the discovery so that you actually get a chance to look at the code, see if there's any refactoring needed, see if there's any technical debt that need to be taken care of before you do the upgrade so that you don't add more issues, and look for any third-party integrations and take the time to estimate that. Definitely a T&M project is the best way to do that. So you're just adding time as you go, but you will hit a point where you need to give an estimate again to the project sponsor or business on when you can complete. Cannot just go on as you are seeing issues. So one way to get around it is, one, you do more on discovery. You make it very clear to all of the stakeholders that for upgrade projects, we need to spend more time. We need to look at code, and we understand this is already an extra money that we're spending. But if we don't do this initial step of doing proper discovery, you won't be able to know when we can finish. And the second point is to make sure that anything that comes up is actually handled by the right people. So we have noticed that when we get into an infrastructure issue during an upgrade or something like that, we don't really have the right people working on the team, because typically what happens is that Sitecore upgrade projects are handled only by IT. And for business, they think, oh, you're just upgrading to a new version. You don't really need anyone from business or marketing or content. But we found that some of the issues are actually coming from that. So we can see a problem with the content editor or the experience editor that requires some input from a content author. And if we don't have this early on, then this issue will just stay there until we have the right people fixing. So bring in the right people, make sure you take your time to estimate. I think this should get you closer to knowing when you can finish an upgrade project.
Great. Thank you. I hope that answered your question, Sandeep. Anyone else have any other questions? Yep, Sandeep says thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep.
All right, I think we're good to wrap up now. Thank you so much, Mostafa, for taking us through this session, and thank you all the participants for joining. We're going to be sharing a recording of this session as well for your reference. So thanks, Mostafa. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Annie. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.